And welcome to the Comic Corner. My name is Damon, and what we do here is news, reviews, and comic book interviews. And today I have my two lovely friends with me, starting out on the West Coast. TJ, Fat Thor, how you doing this morning?
Sorry, I was on mute. I was like, hey. I'm good, man. I'm good. Ready to talk some comics, baby. The last 2 weeks have been like crazy comic weeks. So, I mean, there's so many other books we can't even get to today. But as always, just super excited to talk books with y'all.
Yeah, there's a lot of books we can't get to today, unfortunately, but we're going to try to get through as many as we possibly can. AF, good afternoon, evening?
Yeah, good afternoon. And as you can see, the seasons is changing. It's still light behind me. I'm happy about that. But yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I'm actually more than good this week. Got some news to make me a bit more excited about getting to the East Coast of USA. I'm
Very
amped for it.
excited.
New York
Very
Comic Con.
excited. New York
Yeah,
Comic
I
Con
can.
2024. It's going to be
Dude, I
very
can't.
fun. It's going to be very, very, very fun. Can't wait to see you in person. Just to get to see all my friends in person this year, which is just absolutely lovely. But let's go on to the rundown because we have a limited amount of time today. What we got first? Enter the She-Hulk in Ultimates number 3. I read this one, and golly, do I really like this Ultimate universe that's been built out. And the Ultimates is just universe expanding stuff. So I have been loving that. An Uncanny Rewind. We mentioned last week how I didn't read Uncanny X-Men, and TJ didn't read Uncanny X-Men. We're going to make up for that. We're going to talk about Uncanny X-Men, because it's a big deal of a book. And we're also going to talk Miss Marvel's annual. AF read this one, and I can at least help him out because there's some character stuff in here that neither him or TJ have any idea what's going on. But hey, I'm the one person who really liked the Infinite Destiny stuff, so we will talk about that. But first, the news, and we have one big bomb that came out yesterday. Tom King announced he's doing a Black Canary miniseries in the same vein as Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. This is Black Canary Best of the Best. AF, you sent this to me. How about that for news, huh?
Dude, so as you know, when I read Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow the first time, that was based off your recommendation. I did that. I absolutely loved it. I read it back again a couple of months after that, just to take it in a bit more. And I mean, the fact that he said in the same vein as Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, I think it's called Black Canary Best of the Best. I think that's the name. I cannot wait for this, dude. This is right up my alley. This is Tom King at his very best. It's going to happen. And yeah, dude, if we get any of these creators, or we are able to get any of these creators on the show for this issue when it releases, I am so there. I'm so there.
Yeah, I've been trying to track down King for a while. It's gonna happen. He's on my list. I've been steadily working on getting King somehow, but we'll get him eventually.
TJ, how do you feel about this? You in on it?
I'm all in, baby. I mean, I think this sounds incredible. I Woman of Tomorrow was a book I was late on. I think I read it for the first time like last year, but I credit that book as being like the book that really got me back into DC. Because I mean, I've been reading DC, but obviously everybody knows I'm more of a Marvel guy. But I was like, you know what? I really want to, get back into DC. And I read Woman of Tomorrow, and it was just like blew me away how great it was. So Tom King has my dollar anytime he's releasing a book. I've been loving Wonder Woman, even though it's been on a little downturn last couple issues. Penguin is like a sleeper hit that I've seen nobody talk about, but that is also fantastic. So I mean, how could I be upset at this, right? Like I don't even know anything about Black Canary, which I think makes me even more excited for it because, like I said, I'm aware of her from like the cartoons and stuff. But I think that makes me more excited because it's a character I'm not too familiar with from a writer I really enjoy. So I'm looking forward to him teaching me about Black Canary, right?
Yeah, between birds and this, Dinah's having a little bit of an uptick, which is fantastic to see. I'm excited for this, man. Let Tom King cook, and he will cook. My only hope for this is my only negative spot on that Woman of Tomorrow is that ending gets crazy. So I'm just kind of hoping this is Dinah Lance. Just keep it pretty grounded, Mr. King. That's my
Yeah.
only ask. Keep it pretty grounded. I don't need a horse person to morph out of whatever in the final issue, which is a deep cut that I was not had any recollection of at all. But we're moving on to our reviews for this week, and we're gonna go back to what we should have talked about last week very quickly. This is Uncanny X-Men #1, Gail Simone. TJ, what'd you think of this issue?
I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I know that we've talked about we kind of feel differently about this new X relaunch, and as someone who fell off of Krakoa, not because I wasn't liking it, it just got too much. I'm just super excited for all this new X-Men stuff. And granted too, I'm sure it a little bit has to do with how awesome X-Men 97 was as well. Like we're fresh off that hype too. But I really enjoyed this. It really, again, same thing with the Jed McKay first issue. I felt like this felt like a great jumping on point for people who have not read the X-Men in a long time or have no idea who even if you had no idea who these characters are, that you could pick up this book and follow pretty much what's going on. And I just think it's great. I mean, Gail Simone is a powerhouse. She always shows out in anything she writes. So, like I said, I think this book just fits her perfectly. Dynamic between the characters is great. I'm interested to see what's going on with Wolverine because, he's in every one of these books and he's getting his own solo book. So I'm interested to see how they play with that. But yeah, like I said, I'm just excited for this whole new X thing. And I gotta say too, shout out to this cover because I love this cover. I love it. The font just gives me nostalgia.
Yeah, I hope you like Logan because bro is everywhere. He really, truly is everywhere, and they're just gonna be digging deeper and harder in on that. For me to get into an X book, it has to be really special. I feel like it has to be something very different, something I've never seen before, and that's just not what this direction of this new line of X books is. It's not.
Which
It's
I
intentionally. Yeah, it's intentionally not anything new. It's a lot of the same. There's a fun little moment in here that turns tragic very quickly between Rogue and the sick little boy in a hospital. Doesn't end great. But the very beginning of it reminded me a little bit of a moment in the Wonder Woman book from Tom King, where she goes to see a ill child, and you see a little bit of a difference between how both of them would handle that. So it was just that was interesting. But other than that, like I mentioned before, it really takes something different and special for me to really get into an X book. X Terminators is a great example of that. That was so different and something Marvel hasn't produced in a long time, and I love that book. Hellions, I love that book as well because how different and risky it was in some spots and just characters you'd never even think of seeing the light of day. So far, none of these new X books have really hit with me. I'm glad they have with you because, like you said, you jumped off the Krakoa bandwagon, about midway through because it does get to a lot. But, for me, it's just been okay to I'm not fully interested.
I want to say too, just very quickly, I totally agree also with all of your points. I think we just feel differently about it. You know what I mean? I think you're 100% on the money. They're not reinventing the wheel here with these books, right? It's a very much back to form, back to what you remember. And like I said, just for me, I enjoy that aspect, but I understand why people might not be too, crazy to jump on that.
Yeah. Absolutely. We're just going to move on to another. We have a lot of Marvel books this week, dude.
I'm so jealous that you read this, dude. I've been so excited for this book.
Oh, man. How do I talk about this?
Tell me all about it, dude.
I'll tell you all about it. I'll tell you all about it. So the Ultimates, this line of Ultimate books, this is the big team ensemble book between all of these Ultimate heroes. And what this book essentially is a big universe building series from issue to issue. We're going to be introduced to a new version, a new Ultimate version of a classic Marvel character or of a beloved Marvel character. In this issue, we get our ultimate She-Hulk. And man, how we got there is crazy. There's imagery in here I'm not going to spoil. There's imagery in here that I had to check the rating on this book to see. I was like, is this this
Oh,
is T
like
plus?
that.
Okay,
Like,
that's
are we talking like
interesting.
spicy or gory?
Gory,
Oh, okay.
body
Oh,
horror, which is great for
okay.
a Hulk book, right? Like Hulk is horror, Hulk is body horror, and you get a lot of that not just within this new She-Hulk, but the people around her and how she became She-Hulk. And yeah, we get like a Polynesian She-Hulk here, and that's kind of all I'll say
Dude.
on that. We get it's not too much of a spoiler, but we get to see kind of this universe's version of Abomination and what would happen if some gamma radiation, theoretically, say, hits some reptiles on an island, and we may just get like ultimate
Godzilla, dude?
Godzilla for a hot second, you know?
Dude. Oh
Like
my god.
it's pretty
Denny's.
fun.
Dude. Oh my. I've been loving this series, and I loved issues 1 and 2, and I've been so excited to read through it. I'm going to the comic shop after we get off of here. And oh my lord, like that just got me even more excited. That sounds so good. Shout out Denise Camp, dude. He is killing it on this series. And everyone out there, if you guys want to know how Robert Downey Jr. is coming back as Doom, you got to read issue 4. So I'll tell you that right now. You have to pick up issue 4. It explains everything.
It explains everything, people.
Brilliant.
There's no facetiousness in that at all. Just go pick up that book. Absolutely do it, please. Yeah, I this book has been very cool. I hope we get to see more of this She-Hulk and the people around her on this island again, and it's not just a one-time setup before we go into like the big thing that's going to happen at the very end. So I hope we see all this again. Yeah, it's a good book, dude. It's a good, cool book. Like the imagery in here is super great, super awesome. Highly, highly recommend essentially every Ultimate book that's been coming out right now. AF, on to you for this one. We got Ms. Marvel, the annual, and it's part of the Infinity Watch, which is all coming back to the Infinite Destiny storylines of like, I want to say 3 years ago with those annuals. How did you like or not like this annual?
So I actually enjoyed it, to be honest. So before I did this, I just went back to the Avengers annual
Hmm.
because from what I've read online, that one is quite essential to the reading of this book. And then it made sense because that's where this character Multitude, his name is Ward. That's where he first debuted. So I actually got some background on him. Um, he's basically a synthetic robot um, who tries to. There's a lot of like soul stuff
Hmm.
integrated in his persona, and I mean, this book just like epitomizes what, like, where they're going with it. And what do you know? It's a robot, and they mixed him up with with an Infinity Stone. Where have we heard that before?
Hmm.
So yeah, the Soul Stone chose Multitude, and he's basically now trying to navigate life as a superhero, um, trying to do things on his own. Kamala basically uh, becomes like a mentor to him, telling him that as superheroes, we always lean on each other, we always have each other's backs. You don't have to do anything on your own. There's a lot of similarities between him and a smaller Kamala Khan when she gets overwhelmed with the situation and she needs somebody, whether it was the imam or her dad, just to come and like stabilize and put her back in line. And she basically takes on that role for Multitude. So it was a nice little full circle moment that I quite enjoyed. But yeah, I enjoyed this issue. You guys, uh, are you going to be reading it, Damon? TJ, I know that you said you flipped through it, but yeah, I
Yeah.
think as a one off, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna read it. You know, I'm fully in on the Miss Marvel. I loved Mutant Menace, New Mutant, and like I said, I have it. I flipped through it the other day, but the only reason I didn't like fully read it was just like I had so many other books to read, and I'm like, okay, this doesn't tie in with her previous run. This doesn't tie in with NYX. Like, I can read this a little later, so it still is on my list.
So there are some loose ties because there will be some sort of dialogue every year and there, where it says refer to Mutant Menace issue 4.
Okay.
So there are some like really loose ties to it, but I
Mhm.
think they with the storyline they're going with the annuals, the Infinity Watch, they're trying to keep that as close or separated as possible.
Yeah, that's another reason why I flipped through it, just because not because I don't like it, I just
Yeah.
am not knowledgeable at all about like these Infinity Kids and all that stuff. So I don't know what all that is. I read the Avengers one, so again, I understand like what they're doing. But again, that's just why it kind of went down on my to read list. But again, I'm definitely going to catch it. And you, my friend, I cannot wait for you to read NYX. You got to hop on that.
I will do that as soon as my local comic book store gets it in,
I figured that's why I said when it comes, you gotta hop on it because we will have great things
for
to talk
sure.
about, my friend.
So just in case anyone is curious, if correct me if I'm wrong, you're talking about the annual from 2021 from the
Jed
Avengers, right?
McKay, Jed
Yes.
McKay, Avengers
Yes,
Annual. Yeah.
from 2021. That's
Dude,
when
that was
all of
3 years
this.
ago. Oh
That's
my
what I'm saying.
gosh.
That's why they set
What
all
is
this up
time?
3 years. They set all this up 3 years ago, and I'm kind of sitting back and waiting and being like, when are we gonna bring up these infinity beings again? Because
Yeah.
there's 6 beings out here who are just living infinity stones, and the
So
only other thing we've gotten out of any of this is Star, who's just been the only one that they've actually focused on. And outside of that, Award here, Multitude, like only showed up in that one annual, and I'm like, all right, we got a synthetic robot who has a soul gem. That seems like a big deal. So when it comes to me reading this, I'm absolutely going to check these out once when it is done as a collection, so I can just like go through it
yeah.
because I haven't been reading any to most of these titles as the ongoings, but that's essentially what this is supposed to be, is so you can kind of go into the annual, just read these stories themselves and go one by one by one. Because I do enjoy that Infinite Destinies storyline. I just thought that was a really fascinating idea. And I was waiting for them for a while to get back onto it. And hey, here we are, into year 2024. From 2021 to 2024, we finally got there.
Yeah. And the way that this issue ends, it ends on a bit of a cliffhanger, but it will be continued in Wolverine Annual 2024. So it's it's not a long wait.
I like
I'm
how they're
hoping.
tying all these annuals together, though, like with this
Yeah.
whole kind of Infinity Watch thing. I think that's really cool.
They've been doing that for a while now, at least since I can remember. Well, for a long while, Marvel's done that. At least with the annuals, they like to just have stories connecting all of them. Last year, it was like that Agatha
Yeah.
Yeah.
conquest
Hmm.
thing. I can't remember what it was the year prior to that, but then in 2021, it was the Infinite Destiny storyline that sort of had a little bit of a wrap up moment in a Black Cat book, out of all things. But yeah, it's
That
just
Black Cat
it's
run was good.
Oh, it's phenomenal. I talk about that whenever I can. It's excellent. So there we go. There's Miss Marvel annual #1. Oh, quick question. The Death Zone saga. Did you get into any of that by the end of it?
I read the couple of panels that were at the end of the issue,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, so I don't really know. I don't have any background on that. So
Okay.
when I was reading it, I was like, okay, we're dealing with another dead Coulson. I'm intrigued.
Yeah, I saw
Maybe I'm
that too.
going
I
to
was like,
go back.
what?
So I wonder. I haven't been reading this at all, so I could be completely wrong when I say this, but I wonder, because we have all these beings who have become the Infinity Gems, that I wonder if Coulson's gonna become the living death gem in a way.
Why the
That'd
hell
be
not, right?
Why not? It's a comic book. Anything can happen. Crazier things have happened.
Yep.
Speaking of characters who have died and come back to life, Spider-Gwen, Gwen Stacy, Ghost Spider #3 AF. Tell me about this one.
Okay, so you guys haven't gotten into this at all yet from the first issue or anything like that. Okay, so the first issue I covered that. I can't remember. It was like a couple of months ago. What is time? But yeah, it ended where Spider-Gwen gets stabbed by Craven the Hunter. You know, Mister Mainstream after that trailer yesterday. Uh, she gets stabbed by him in the exact same spot that 616 Gwen Stacy died, off the top of the bridge, exact same death, falling down into the ocean. It was crazy. And in issue 2, issue 3, we get a lot of questions about who is this Craven. Turns out it's not actually Craven. So throughout the second issue and the third issue, Ghost Spider basically encounters so many different villains and different Marvel characters in the Spider-Man universe, uh, and they don't act like themselves. And then eventually we see that it's Chameleon.
Yeah, that makes
He
sense.
there is we don't know yet what he's plotting. We don't know what's happening, but we find out that it's Chameleon, and she finds a way to get into his lair. And there's a Captain America shield. There is Milner. There is an Asgardian dagger. There are so many artifacts, but they're not real. Obviously, they are forgeries because when he becomes that person, you just need something to, just fill out the whole uniform. Um, so yeah, I'm super intrigued about what's going on in the story. All of the other Spider-Men and Spider-Women know about Gwen now in the 616. She can't tell them why they're there. Obi hasn't showed up since issue 1, so she's basically doing her own thing. Miles feels a bit offended that she can't trust him with whatever she's doing on 616. But yeah, and there's this really, really fun sort of interaction, and it makes me want to see them have a spin off, but between Gwen and or Ghost Spider and Silk, Cindy, amazing. Like, I just want that spin off right now. I want them to have their own series, their own ongoing. But yeah, I'm so into this book. I cannot wait for more. Stephanie Phillips is an amazing writer. She captures the characters so perfectly well, and yeah, I just want more of this.
It sounds like Secret Invasion with Chameleon, but instead it's Chameleon going to the Avengers outlets to make sure he gets the knockoff materials of everything,
Yeah,
which is sure, why not? It totally makes sense, by the way, that Chameleon is taking over for Craven because the connection between those two and everything. That just the second you said it's not, we don't know if it's actually Craven, I was like, it's Chameleon. Yeah, that makes sense. Like that, the 1+1 there definitely equals 2. Stephanie Phillips, as you mentioned, is a fantastic writer, so I have absolutely no doubt that the storytelling here is good. I am curious, like the multiversal aspect to this, plus with a little bit of like that grounded spider storytelling with Chameleon going around. That seems like a classic spider story, especially for Gwen too. So
yep,
yeah, I mean, when this comes out as a trade, as a collection, I think I'll definitely check this out.
you definitely should. I think you'll definitely enjoy it.
Fantastic, fantastic. TJ, on to you, buddy. We talked a little Ultimate She-Hulk earlier, but now we're gonna do a regular, incredible Hulk number 15. Tell me about this.
So dang good. Philip Kennedy Johnson, people. We have been praising this man for all of his work. I mean, Crocodile Black is amazing, but Incredible Hulk. I've been saying this, and I will stand on this. I've come to this conclusion like maybe a month ago now. Incredible Hulk is the best book Marvel is putting out. There's so many great books at Marvel, but Incredible
More than
Hulk
the
is,
Ultimate books.
yeah, that's hard, but I'll go on and say yeah. I'll go on and say yeah because this book is slapping, dude. Kennedy is doing such a great job. We talked before about, him bringing Hulk back to these horror roots, the, big green monster kind of. And it's just each issue has been building and building on the previous one. We have like little small arcs with, just fun monsters, bigger arcs playing on in the background. And then in this issue, he actually brings back something from the Immortal Hulk run, and which is so weird and awesome, but it was kind of an annual sort of thing, like we were just talking about with Miss Marvel, and it was the Immortal Hulk Time of Monsters, and it was like way back, like Stone Age days, and we like follow a Hulk during then. So he brings that dude back for this story, and it just is peeling back all these layers of, again, this kind of monster tapestry that Philip Kennedy Johnson is making for the Hulk. Again, I cannot praise this book enough. If you loved Immortal Hulk, this is an amazing successor to that book. And something that I really appreciate is that it also is a successor and acknowledges heavily the previous run from Donny Cates, which I know a lot of people were a little iffy on. But again, Kennedy does an amazing job with taking both of those previous runs and, using that to fuel this new run that, again, I just cannot say how awesome it is. If you like Hulk, this is the book for you. And shout out Nick Klein's art, Thor alumni. Love you, buddy. The art is absolutely fantastic as well. Talking about transformations, you got some crazy transformations here.
Hey, that's what you want out of a Hulk book. Like we mentioned before, Hulk has that horror bit to him, that body horror, that demon inside of you, all of that.
See, that's this all, like everything you just said. That's what drives this book, which I think makes it so good.
And we know Philip Kennedy Johnson as well. Fantastic writer. So I can only imagine how good it is if I actually read it. So that's another one. We have a stacking list of books that we all were just like, man, gotta read that collection. The to be read list. And there's so many ways to be able to catch up on books. This is a good way to shout this out since we have a little bit of time. Good way to catch up on books, everyone. If you have a local library, definitely go check that out. Go get your library card because that is a free, legal way to go get some back issues through trades, through collections. My local library offers digital versions, so if they don't have the physical book, you can get it digitally and you can go through it that way. So definitely find out multiple ways. And of course, as we've always mentioned, go check out your local comic shops. If there's a book you really want, you want the physical copy of, go order it there, go pick it up, see if there's any sales going around. There's so many ways to go catch up on issues, on stories, on volumes that are out there that are legal, that help the writers out and comic book shops and the libraries too. We just talked about, I got 5-6 Marvel books in a row. It's kind of funny. Sometimes we go through weeks where we have like no Marvel books and we do like 6 DC books, or we just do books like issues of just independent books. And this week was very Marvel heavy, but we have 2 Boom books to wrap things up. I'm going to start off with this one, Profane #3. This is a book we've been keeping up with. This is about a detective, Will Profane, who turns out he's actually a fictional character in a novel who's come to the real world trying to find the guy who killed his writer, essentially.
The killer.
Right? That's what we're going with. And we're now here through issue 3. There's more just craziness, chaotic stuff going on. By the end of the issue, the guy who's almost like the first suspect, he's gone. He's off the record. So it's like, now who's doing this? Who's doing this? I will say this. I'm getting very suspicious, everyone, of this little super fan he has. His little super fan who brought him into the world. I'm getting a little suspicious of him. I'm just saying.
Something's definitely up with Eugene. Or that's his name, right? Something along those lines.
Something's definitely up with them. Bro knows a lot about Will Profane and his history, dating back to pages, very specific dialogue. I don't know. Something's going on with you, buddy. I'd keep an eye on it. But if you like a good mystery, if you want a little bit of a twist to... It's almost a reverse isekai. If you like anime or manga, where you get transported into another world, except that world is the real world, so it's in a way a reverse isekai. So I've really been enjoying this. Definitely check this out. Pierre Mulligan's writing here is great, and the art here as well is fantastic. The last book we'll talk about today is S.I.R. from Boom Studios, technically under the Boombox umbrella. And that makes sense because this book, if you like webcomics, this is right up your alley because this reads, is presented, the flow, the art, everything is webcomic. The style of it, everything. This book is because of that, it has a slow burn of a start, and then once when you kind of get into the motorcycle jousting of it all, is when it picks up and you're like, yeah, this is what I'm here for. This motorcycle jousting, they call it the most dangerous sport in this world on a college campus out of all things. So imagine instead of like everyone's getting hyped about, the college football team, everyone's getting hyped about S.I.R., this motorcycle jousting sport, and you have this very interesting relationship between these two characters, and one of them is in this S.I.R. sport and is undefeated through 97 matches until the end. So what happens there? You have to read it to find out. But it's a pretty solid first issue. Again, if you like webcomics, if that's your vibe, definitely check this out.
Dude, motorcycling jousting, immediately sold on that. On a college campus.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
Yeah, there's a lot of interpersonal stuff between, characters within the college campus. So you get like college drama there, so it's not just the action. The action the action takes a little bit of it revs up a little bit towards the end, and then when you get into it, you're like, oh yeah, this is the good stuff right here. This is the fun stuff. So
Nice.
I enjoyed this first issue. Again, if you like webcomics, if you like that style, if you like the art, if you like the flow of it all, I highly would recommend for you to pick this up because I really think you would enjoy it if that is your thing. Man, we were able to get through a lot of books this week. A lot of books this week in pretty quick amount of time. But TJ, you know what I always ask right now? Let's pull out that cellular device and tell me what is on your list for next week. Also, beforehand, before we get here, I also want to shout out Action Comics this week. Gail Simone's still writing the main story on that. It's been super fun. If you like a classic, I want to say Silver Age Superman story, it's right up your alley.
I love it. I'm definitely gonna pick those up as well. And like I was gonna say, I have my list ready. I just need to have it on hand when you ask me. That's the next step. But for next week, so I want to shout out two books from this week that I wasn't able to pick up yet. But Outsiders #10 and Principles of Necromancy #4, both from Jackson Lansing, Colin Kelly. Absolutely amazing books. Outsiders is my favorite DC book. I think if you like Planetary, this is basically a Planetary sequel. Go check that out. Both those books are fantastic. But for next week, I got Crocodile Black #4, which I've been loving. Green Lantern Wardrobe. Phil Kennedy Johnson, again, killing it. Two Kennedy Johnson books next week. And also Predator versus Black Panther, which I'm a big sci-fi nerd. I love Predator and Alien. So Predator Black Panther, it just feels right? So I'm super excited about that. And then last one, Scarlet Witch #3. Shout out Steve Orlando because we love Scarlet Witch, we love Steve, and I can't wait for that third issue.
How excited are you for this new Alien movie that's coming out today/tomorrow?
I cannot wait, dude. I cannot wait. Like I said, I love that stuff. Even like the shitty ones, I'm like, it's still Alien, right? Like I'm all in on it.
AF, what about you? What's on your radar?
So yeah, absolute power stuff, dude. Next week is Superman 17, I think. And yeah, that entire premise, the stuff that's happening with Zatanna and Superman, and I think they venture into some pretty dark territory next week. So yeah, I'm super excited for that. All of these small little building blocks coming together in the absolute power main story. It's a treat for me as a DC fan, and I just love all of this connective tissue. I want to see more.
TJ and I have a stacked list next week that is going to be extraordinarily challenging to whittle down what we will talk about, because I have 7 polls on my list next week, which is very high for me. So shout out epitaphs. Shout out epitaphs in the Abyss from Oni, an EC off-brand, Nightwing 117, the penultimate issue of this run. We are absolutely talking about that. Paranoid Gardens #2 by Gerard Way and Sean Simon. Shout out Chris Weston, because Wednesday we will have an interview dropping with the artist Chris Weston, where he talks about all things Paranoid Gardens, his back and forth with Gerard Way about the book, and how their relationship is, which is really interesting to see how some things very slightly change, but just the creative process in that. We also talked a little bit about Silver Age Superman and Vertigo Comics, because back in the day, he was an artist on Vertigo Comics, and that's one of the reasons why he was brought over to do Paranoid Gardens, is because Gerard's idea of this world is very Vertigo inspired. So make sure you keep an eye out for that. That was a very fun discussion. A super, super, super nice guy. We also mentioned earlier Superman 17, if you're keeping up with Absolute Power, and the big, big, big book, a little title called Ultimate Spider-Man, which is the pinnacle of all these Ultimate books. Ultimate Spider-Man #8 is out. And shout out from Vault Comics, Something Crawled Out #1 is out in physical form next week. We read it in the, they had the free issue online. So if you really like that and you want to support them, definitely go check out and pick up the physical copy of that. Man, so many books next week. We're going to have to whittle some of these down, but we will absolutely be talking about Ultimate Spider-Man. We will absolutely be talking about Paranoid Gardens. At least I will be talking about that. And many, many more titles to come from there. So, gentlemen, thanks for chatting comics once again this week. We got through a lot of books in only 38 minutes so far. That's good for us because we can yap.
Quick and efficient, my friend. That's what we do here at Comic Corner.
I love that. Quick and efficient. Amazing.
Quick and efficient, because sometimes we can yap about a book for like 15 minutes, but we were pretty good about that. Pretty good about it this week, which is phenomenal. Make sure you can check out all things Agents of Fandom on Twitter, at Agents Fandom on Twitter and TikTok, and on Instagram at Agents of Fandom, everywhere else. You can find us on Twitter at Comic Corner Pod. You can find us on TikTok at Comic Corner Pod, and you see all our handles up here on the screen. You can find us there as well. You can find me also, I don't have it up, on Twitter at Damon Tweet, where I am just going crazy on all this D23 news and all these theme park news. We have in our Agents of Fandom group, we have a little theme park group of, you can almost joke and say Disney adults, and some of us are closeted Disney adults in a way. It's totally fine if you are, but we know. It's so much news has come out. We will be talking more about that. Definitely check out the Agents of Fandom podcast that will be up on Friday if you want more D23 talk for all the movies and everything and TV shows and all the announcements. So that'll do it for this issue of the Comic Corner. Make sure you pick up your comics at your local comic shop. Go support your local comics. Go read some comics. Go to your libraries too. We mentioned that as well. Until next time.